Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Thursday update as we take a look at the forecast going into this weekend and across next week. Let's have a look at the animated map. You can see low pressure out to the east, very windy weather around Cook Strait and the southern part of the North Island yesterday. That windy weather is now moving out to the east, still clipping some of these eastern areas, Mahia Peninsula, for example, and that southerly breeze coming in and around all the way up to about Auckland and Northland with a very, very slight temperature change, barely noticeable, to be honest with you, over the previous days. Bit messy with this low pressure around the country at the moment. That's why we are seeing a few showers. But the dominant feature is the high pressure zone out on the Tasman. That's on its way in and it's going to bulldoze all of that weather away. And that's the reason why the next 7 days, departure from normal, we're still into that red and pink shading around not only New Zealand, but the Tasman Sea and even a large portion of the eastern side of Australia. Now they do get some rain relief around Tasmania and Victoria in the days ahead. That matters to us in New Zealand because that is coming over our way, but it mostly is looking to affect the west coast and Southland into next week. So we've got those maps for you to make more sense of it all. So let's kick off with the Friday setup. You can see a few showers around the top of the country, nothing too big in there, mostly dry around New Zealand with much lighter winds as the high pressure system comes in and the low to the east falls apart. Going into Saturday, not a great deal of difference, but there is a slight change, and that is to do with the high pressure system in the Tasman. That's going a little further northwards, and that allows the windier westerlies to start to arrive. So you'll notice them around the hills and ranges, for example, Fiordland, Southland, Otago, also through the high country of Canterbury, and up around Cook Strait, that nor'wester kicks on in. Most places are dry. Westland looks to be the wettest, maybe a couple of isolated showers around the Cook Strait area with that nor'wester. And on Sunday, not a great deal of change. In fact, it's even drier on Sunday, but it's windier as well. And this pulse of heat coming out of New South Wales, straight on down to the South Island, lifting up your temperatures in many places. But look what's happening in Tasmania, big autumn cold front coming through for them. So they're getting a surge of hot weather followed by cold weather, very classic autumn sort of conditions. And so once we get to Monday, that's when the windiest of the weather arrives before the cold front. Now the cold front looks kind of exciting if you need rain, and sure, it might bring in some wet weather along the western side of New Zealand, but it's worth pointing out that the northern portion of it is not very active, and that will be weakening as it moves into the high pressure zone around the top of the country. So as we get that squeeze going on, the winds pick up. Look at Monday's wind map. This is for 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the gust maps. The areas here in the purple-pink shading, those are showing gusts of 90 over 100 k's an hour. So that's getting into severe gale force and stronger. In the usual areas though, tops of the mountains and ranges around Cook Strait and Wellington and very southern wide at upper. As it moves northwards, it doesn't change a great deal because, as I say before, with the high pressure up here, this system is weakening as it moves in, but certainly windy weather coming in from later into the weekend and through until next week, at least till about Tuesday. Here is Tuesday's setup. So we've got a new low off the east of Otago and Dunedin. That's quite a deep low at 988 hectopascals, the big high out over towards Australia. So the squash zone is still with us, but now it turns to a south to southwesterly one. Very cold weather kicking in to Southland and Otago. We could be seeing some snow on the mountains and ranges as that all comes on in. Plenty of wet weather, that's good for the dry parts of the west coast. Great news for Otago and Southland that are now starting to dry out. And of course, Stewart Island. We don't talk much about Stewart Island, but you've got rain on the way there. Extremely dry around Stewart Island at the moment. But for those of you on the western side of the North Island who desperately need some rain, this is not going to produce much. It will produce some, but not a huge amount. I was looking at the rainfall figures for around Auckland and Waikato and Northland, and some of them are only, 2, 3, 4 millimetres of rain coming through. You see what happens to that front, just gets decimated as it runs into the higher air pressure. So looks exciting, like a dog that's running towards you, but it's got a chain on it, so it can't reach you. That's the front as it rushes up the country. Tuesday and going into Wednesday, pretty much falls apart. In comes the next high. All those westerlies to the south, they are still clipping the South Island. Hello, autumn. That's autumn. It is starting to arrive over Tasmania and over the South Island, and you'll be feeling it in Wellington, in our capital, with those nor'westers starting to crank up as we go through the weeks ahead. That's all from me for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got an Australian video out as well. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow with our 7-day rain watch update for New Zealand. Have a great rest of your day.